Hello, everyone. My name is Remy Kiak, and I'm from Mental Health Connecticut. I'm really glad to be here today to share with you some information about challenges you may face with your mental health and how to know when to reach out for help. Before we get started, I wanted to give a special thanks to Mental Health America of Greater Baton Rouge and Louisiana Healthcare Connections for allowing me to be here today and share some important information. So I think most of you would agree that 2020 to 2021, over this past year, it's been quite a challenging time, to say the least. With the pandemic and all of the unknowns, which created the loss of our way of living on just about every level, our fear of getting ill, of our loved ones becoming ill. We've all experienced some loss, whether it be a family member, a friend. I know that we've all been dealing with the change in our work environments or the status of our employment, and that's just to name a few. And all these are really disconcerting and produce anxiety for sure. And as if it were a parallel epidemic occurring at the same time, we had all the racial and political tensions. They were really palpable and also creating a great deal of anxiety and strife all on their own. So we're also combining this with our everyday anxieties and tensions and responsibilities. So this is starting to add up, and Hurricane Ida then tore through Louisiana on August 29th, and that created major power outages and flooding and storm-related losses of life. So we're compiling all of this together. And for most people, all of this created or exacerbated our feelings of anxiety and stress and feelings of sadness. We're feeling anxious and down. And, we began reaching out to loved ones and to family members, maybe somebody at our place of worship, and talking. But some of these symptoms and how we're feeling is just kind of going on for a long time and maybe even getting worse. And we just start to feel like things are becoming unwieldy. We stop and think, what is the matter with me? Is this par for the course? And, with everything going on, sure, I should be feeling this way. I'd be surprised if I didn't. How do we know if it's situational or whether we have a disorder? And what is the difference? And when should we reach out for help? So let's spend a little bit of time today talking about that. We all have mental health. We all have a brain, which means we all have mental health. And this can run along a continuum from what I would call wellness all the way through to experiencing a mental health disorder. And when you look at it, mental health really it's a state of well-being. We realize our own abilities. We can cope with the normal stresses of life. We can work productively. We're able to make contributions to the community. 1 in 4 people are going to experience a disruption in that, a disruption in their mental health. And that could be along a continuum, right, of severity. So it really is important to know when to reach out to others, not only family, friends, but also getting that professional help. We spoke a little bit about everything that's been going on over the past year and how it could really be very, very stressful and anxiety producing. So what is stress, right? Stress, simply put, it's our body's reaction to change, right? The change could be positive, like getting married, or it could be negative, like the past 2 years and everything that's been going on. But a common myth is that all stress is a bad thing and something that should be avoided at all costs, right? But life changes, right? And change is a normal part of life. So it means that stress is also going to be a normal part of your life. In fact, our stress response is not only normal, but it's actually an important tool that our bodies use to help us prepare and adapt to change. So short-term stress can help us learn and grow and be better problem solvers and help us learn to manage and regulate our emotions a bit better. And stress can look a little bit different depending on the size of the change, what the change means for you, or what the changes mean for you. But when we feel stress, right, we have a situation that has created stress for us, we're going to notice some physical changes in our body, right? Not only our body too, but our emotions. So when our bodies are trying to respond to a change, an abrupt change, we go into what we call the fight or flight response, right? And this is our way of surviving. Our bodies have to become ready to either stay and fight whatever that is, right? It's creating fear for us, or to flee from it. So our bodies do a couple different things, and they help us respond quickly when we're in danger. So some of those things might be our bodies need to get ready to run or to stay and be strong, right? So we're going to notice an increase in a heart rate, our blood pressure along with it. Okay. Our pupils are going to dilate to let in more light so we can see a little bit more clearly. Sometimes people get what's called, they lose their peripheral vision and everything gets very focused in. We'll feel tension in our muscles. We might actually feel our bellies might feel what people call rumbly or agitated. It's a very strange feeling. Some people think it's hunger. Most of the time it's our blood is going all to the major muscle groups to let us go. So our bellies are getting left alone. Physically, we also might be a bit clammy or sweaty. And again, that heart racing, that feeling of our heart just wanting to jump out of our chest. Along with that, emotionally, we might feel very, very fidgety, nervous, worried. That feeling of just overwhelming feeling, and we find ourselves holding our heads. And we all know when you get stressed out, we can get very snappy and irritable, and also feel sad and down, right? So a little bit about what we're talking about today is kind of listening to your body, because it's going to be there for you. It's going to let you know. And I've got to say, even though a lot of the feelings that we talk about in response to an actual situation, they are unpleasant, but believe it or not, it's your body trying to protect you or to tell you something. For example, when you're feeling anxious or worried about something, if we're communicating to ourselves in a way that this thing that we're anxious or worried about is important to us. Okay, it's drawing our attention to that. That feeling of pressure that we talk about can help motivate us, could help prepare us to make changes that are needed to protect us, and also to make changes that we need maybe to get through something that's very important. Okay, feelings of being overwhelmed, for instance, could tell us that we need to prioritize or focus on one thing at a time, right? But when we talk about that moving along a continuum, okay, I'll give you, for instance, think about a time you had to prepare for something important, such as a presentation or a job interview. The anxiety you're feeling is reminding you that, hey, this is really important to me, right? And it could really serve you to be on point and to prepare in advance. But when all of this is going on long term, like it has over the past year, right? This long-term chronic stress, it's different. Okay, it puts our body in a constant state of pressure, and it negatively impacts us both physically and emotionally. These feelings of anxiety that may remain long after an actual event, or maybe are there even in the absence of event, are raising the flag for us to say, hey, something's not right, and I need to look at this and get some feedback from people, right? What we may start out as that kind of healthy response to stress can turn into an anxiety disorder or a post-traumatic stress disorder, and also depression, which we'll talk about in just a bit. But when you feel anxiety most days and in most situations, it's no longer helpful or serving you. It can cause problems, obviously, in our lives, be extremely uncomfortable, and disrupt our day-to-day functioning, right? This is when we really need to get on the horn, call our physicians. And of course, we know all the time reaching out to friends and family, our place of worship, right? People that we trust and talk to them. But really, again, getting a hold of our physician and telling them about our symptoms and letting them guide us through. Some of the things that also you might experience when this has gone on long term, and this is what I'm talking about, the flag is flying, you need to pay attention. And again, along this continuum of severity and longevity could be, just the restlessness, the feelings of being on edge, irritable, being stressed out long term. I mean, very easily fatigued. People will often describe having what I call scrambled eggs for brains, which is difficulty concentrating. People having feelings of worry when they can't pinpoint what they're worried about. And of course, all this would of course disrupt your sleep and your appetite, right? These are the kinds of things where we want to look at, stop, reach out, like I was talking about, and get that help. Again, working with your physician is really important too, because they can help you rule out any physical causes that may be causing this or creating this, and also help you connect to a professional therapist or counselor. So, we talked a little bit about stress and anxiety and how that can morph, right? Let's spend a minute now talking about feelings of sadness that we may experience from all that's happened. Feelings of sadness, yes, they are our body's way of telling us that we have experienced some sort of loss. That kind of slowing down feeling that accompanies sadness really helps protect us and helps us process that loss and figure out how to move forward. While it's quite likely we all go through periods of sadness and low energy, for instance, if we've experienced the loss of a loved one, loss of a job, all the things that have happened over the past 2 years, right? We get it. You're going to be sad. You're going to feel sluggish and maybe just not quite as motivated as you were before. But differently, and what we want to pay attention to is when this is lasting over a period of weeks and months, when we start experiencing this intense sadness, feelings of helplessness, despair, feeling worthless. If we feel physically and mentally exhausted all the time, again, having trouble concentrating, if we are feeling extreme changes in our eating and our sleeping habits, difficulty functioning on a day-to-day basis, trouble getting out of bed, and also even thoughts of ending our lives, we need to reach out for help. Again, we don't wait for a physical condition, right? If we had cancer, we wouldn't wait till cancer got to stage 3 to go get help. We want to get help at stage 1. It's that way with your mental health, right? And one of the biggest things I want to say to people is if we're uncomfortable and we've tried a little bit of self-care, we've tried talking to our friends and our loved ones, and any kind of symptoms are remaining that we aren't comfortable with, you don't even have to wait until it goes anywhere but where it is right now to reach out and get help. It's all part of our self-care. Both anxiety, stress, depression, along with many other mental health challenges are treatable with great success. It's so important to understand that if you're uncomfortable, not to hesitate to look for the resources to support you. You don't have to wait for your life to become more difficult or disruptive to ask for assistance. We really need to just get on the phone or reach out to someone right away and say, I'm not okay. So again, all of these signs and symptoms are along a continuum, but remember that you know yourself the best. Okay? Reach out and get the assistance that you need. Now, there are quite a bit of resources available to people out there. So, make sure, number one, that you have your physician or attached to a physician. There's also a lot of resources to provide you with mental health resources in your area. If you are feeling especially bad and suicidal, that needs to be a call to 911 to get help immediately. However, in your local community, there are helplines. One of them is the Suicide Prevention Hotline, and that's at 1-800-273-TALK, which is 8255. And there's also a crisis text line where you text HOME, capital HOME, to the number 741-741. And that's from anywhere in the United States at any time. Well, thank you for joining us today for our short conversation about when to get help. And please remember, you know yourself the best. Don't wait. Thank you.